But I honestly believe that all individuals in our community are capable and are leaders at whatever level, because it starts at your neighborhood, it starts at home, it starts in your faith community, it's at work.
All right, welcome back to Building Brevard. I am PJ McLaughlin, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Kristin Bakke with LEAD Brevard, and thank you so much for coming on today.
My pleasure, PJ. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. I tell this story often, and you've heard it before, that without LEAD Brevard, I don't think that my family stays inside of Brevard County, because my wife was arguably one of the best classes, as we always say, and we made a lot of good friends, and some of them are now kind of family through LEAD Brevard, right? And so for somebody who doesn't know LEAD Brevard, what would you tell them about LEAD Brevard?
Well, I think you've hit one of the key points, PJ. We're about connections. Mm-hmm. We're about connecting people to the community, connecting people to each other. Mm-hmm. In fact, we've got Kevin Bacon and his 6 degrees of separation. Now, we do it in 3.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of a staff internal joke, but we really can. You know, if you need help and you're a Leadership Brevard graduate, we're generally able to connect you to another Leadership Brevard graduate in 2 or 3 phone calls.
Right.
And that hashtag, use the network, mm-hmm. that you see on social media. And the other hashtag we use a lot is leadership in action. Mm-hmm. Those are our leaders working in this community to make it a better place.
Yeah. So for somebody who doesn't know, like, I might not be in a leadership type position, mm-hmm. and yet I'm new to the area, or I'm in a new field.
Right.
What would you say? How does that connection work inside of LEAD Brevard?
Leadership Brevard really it's a cohort of 60 people annually. We're recruiting right now for the fall class that starts September 17th. So you can join us. There's still time. Mm-hmm. But we've been doing these annual classes since 1986. That's the first graduating year. And so it's a series of 9 sessions over 8 months, and every day's theme impacts or tells the community, tells the participants about a particular aspect of our community. Mm-hmm. I mean, we touch on education and the economy and tourism and, social services, education. Environmental, thank you, yes.
Team building.
Team building, yeah. We still have a day where we do a ropes course, mm-hmm. right? Yeah. And also a Clifton Strengths assessment.
Okay.
So people get to identify or re-identify their leadership strengths, mm-hmm. and build on those. So you're really a group of 60, but it's you and 59 of your new best friends.
What would you say? Like, you obviously have some companies that send somebody every year. Mm-hmm. If I'm kind of just spitting quote, like, I really don't know. I was part of
that's accurate. Yeah. That's accurate. We have some, if you will, customers or clients or mm-hmm. Leadership Brevard family members that look at the program as a professional development opportunity, particularly for their senior leaders that they either want to move into or are in an outward-facing community leadership role. Yeah. So that is an example, but we also have entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, small businesses, mm-hmm. People that we meet who are new to the community, or, as you said, new to their role, mm-hmm. every year.
Yeah. So you have this kind of cohort, if you will, that every year knows how important LEAD Brevard is, and then you're always looking for, okay, what are the companies that are new or a new position, and how do we get them involved with 59 other mm-hmm. people to really build relationships? I think
it's building relationships while we build community.
Right.
I mean, our mission is working together to strengthen our community by inspiring people to lead. And while it sounds grand, and it is, That's really what we do. We want to showcase what's going on in our community, the who's who and the what's what, if you will, so that people can then self-identify, like for yourself and for your company, where do you want to engage and make a difference?
Yeah.
Because everybody's capable of leading and being engaged in their community. And some people come to us already quite engaged, but may discover something new.
Yeah. Very interesting. As I was thinking about LEAD Brevard, we do have, my class is the best class. When we randomly poll how many people at different events show up, our class does show up more than every other class. And Ann Conroy Bader was in my class, and Junior Achievement was one of those programs where LEAD Brevard introduced me to Junior Achievement.
Right,
really.
right.
I knew of them. I had done it in the past in California.
Okay.
But I had no idea how to necessarily get involved if I was, PJ, the real estate agent. How do I help LEAD Brevard?
How do I
help
connect?
How do I connect with Junior Achievement? How can just little PJ help an organization? And I think LEAD Brevard did a really good job of us taking a smaller cohort and saying, okay, what's their problem and how do we help them fix it? Their problem is recruiting, like most nonprofits, right? You need the man hours.
Always a challenge, right?
Always, you need man hours, people hours. You need revenue,
right?
And
time, talent, and treasure. We need it all.
Time, talent. I'm gonna have to remember that. Time,
talent, and treasure.
Yeah.
It can be all three or one of the three, but every nonprofit organization needs our community's members to embrace that philosophy and give of their time, talent, and treasure.
So I'm an old alumni at this point. You guys still do something like that similarly, where you'll take an organization and try and figure out how the LEAD class gets involved with each?
Yeah, we sure do, PJ. They're called community acceleration projects now. I'm not sure what we called them. In the past, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
But we are, of course, accelerating the community by engaging in these projects. But we have an RFP process every summer where the nonprofit community submits proposals. A group of our alumni read and rate and score and argue about which ones should be accepted for the cohort of the next class. And then those groups come to one of the first sessions in Leadership Brevard and present their proposal, and then participants self-select into the projects that they're most interested in. And we do a pretty good job of usually matching you with your first or second choice. But those community projects are a way for LEAD Brevard and our participants to give back to the community via the nonprofit sector.
Yeah, it's really powerful. It's something that I think, this is building Brevard, and I think there is something different about Brevard County that I've noticed that just isn't what you expect in a lot of other cities or even states, where the community actually comes together and we join arms and we figure out how to fix a problem if the community needs it. What would you say is one of the success stories of that, of this community engagement project? You have anything that comes to mind?
Well, let me build on the conversation that you picked up a minute ago with the Junior Achievement, because you may know Glenn Outlaw. Glenn is I hope I get his year right, Glenn, forgive me. I think it's 96, one of those years.
Early 90s.
Early 90s. But Glenn started a program, and it still is, going on today, called Tied Together. And it's a group of men that Glenn recruits heavily from our Leadership Brevard alumni pool. And are you one of the guys that goes into?
I've done it once.
Yeah. Okay. So
I know it well. I wore a tie every day until COVID. I haven't worn one since.
Yeah, haven't worn one since. But Glenn and the team, if you will, or the volunteers, go into middle and I think reaching into high schools now to welcome young men into their early adulthood. Teach them how to tie a tie. how to shake hands, how to look somebody in the eye, how to
Eye
say
contact.
hello,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And that program's been really, really successful. However, there was not a program that was a companion program for the young women in the schools. And Junior Achievement, under Anne's leadership, and I'm sure that of her board, created a program called GLOW to introduce STEM to the young women at the same schools, while the young men are with the tied together men in the gym.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one of many. But
Right. So if we're following that timeline, it is a class of the early 90s to a class of the early 2000s. We'll call it still early, whatever.
early.
Yeah. 20-something, 2 decades apart. And now you have 2 organizations that were part of LEAD Brevard that have now kind of come together and really serve the community at a high level.
Yeah. And that's just one of those stories. There are so many Leadership Brevard alumni engaged in things that I'm probably not even aware of. And that really is what is a benefit to the community and to those of us who work in the program.
Yeah.
When we see that kind of thing happen, whether it happens organically or is a more structured effort.
Yeah. Yeah. I was blown away because I was new to Brevard. My wife had was 2 years earlier. We intentionally did a break in between her year and my year so that we had a little separation there. And when I walked into LEAD Brevard for the first time, I was blown away. I mean, from political to school superintendent to sheriff's department to nonprofits to CEOs that I thought, wow, like, how does a CEO take a Thursday out of their schedule to show up to? And it was this sense of community where we all came together. So it didn't matter what your title, your role, your experience.
No, it doesn't matter.
And you guys somehow figure out how to get us all moving in the right direction. Yeah, 60 strangers all moving towards the right direction.
Yeah, but the 60 strangers come with a common intent. I think PJ maybe is the right word in the beginning, that they're interested in learning more about the community so that they can do a different and or better job of serving the community.
Yeah.
And so when you bring that intent times 60 into a physical space and orchestrate some introduction exercises, that type of thing, it's very quick to begin to see the connections and the bonds, because so many of you, like you and Stephanie, are engaged not only in your professions, but you're engaged in your community. And so you meet other people who are interested in being engaged. And it's true. In Brevard, it's very much that kind of come alongside me and help.
Yeah.
And, we preach that, if you will, within the program, how can we help you? How can you help each other?
Yeah. Super, super powerful.
Yeah.
I love the and I don't know if you do this one. See, I'm rehashing 10 years old class stuff.
Yeah.
And yet I remember like where you were born or raised and then where you currently live, because we have 72 miles. And so it was very interesting to take our class and see, oh, well, I'm actually geographically located relatively close to this person, but where they were born and raised could be thousands of
miles away.
Right. And yet we're all still here trying to lead our community. It's funny. I keep looking at your logo because I have 2 lapel pins. And so everybody asks me,
okay,
what's the lapel pin? I'm like, oh, let me tell you about LEAD Brevard.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you wear it. Yeah. The lapel pin is the compass that you're looking at. And I mean, that makes sense for us. That whole North Star kind of analogy.
Yeah.
But the compass, find your way, all the things. But the Leadership Brevard program is one of several programs that are under the LEAD Brevard flag. Right.
And then you also have like LEAD Florida, right?
Well, there is a Leadership Florida. We're not actually attached to them. I mean, it's a very separate organization, but we have a number of Leadership Brevard alumni who are now either enrolled or recent graduates of Leadership Florida, because that's a statewide program, whereas we are Brevard County.
And is there state programs in all 50 states? Do you know any?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think so. There is a leadership program, community-based, in most states. There's something like 17 leadership programs in Central Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, because we're all unique and specialized to our community, but we learn from each other and best practices. Because we're not competitors within a particular community, are very easily shared. It's a very sharing and caring, if you will, community of professionals that we're all the same mission, trying to identify and deploy community leaders.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, the Kevin Bacon analogy that you used, I was talking to a fellow LEAD Brevard grad and said, hey, I'm trying to track down this person. And it's like, oh, I know such and such person from LEAD Florida who knows this person.
Who knows them.
So within
there
three steps through LEAD Brevard, all I had to do was go LEAD Brevard, LEAD Florida, got in touch with this person, a very well-known musician, artist, whatever, and got to their manager relatively quickly and within 3 phone calls. So
yeah, well, see, we've got, and I love Kevin Bacon. Don't get me wrong. One of these days we're going to get him to come keynote for us because I keep using his name. But that we literally can usually make those connections in those 3 dots, just like you suggested. Yeah.
Yeah. What's next for LEAD Brevard? Like, you guys have been doing this since mid-'80s.
Yep.
On a nice little 30-year run, getting close to 30 year, if I'm doing my math
actually,
correct?
We're getting close to 40.
40 year, sorry. See?
That's okay.
Math on the fly.
Math on the fly. Yeah, it'll be 40 years in 26.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
86, 26, yeah.
Yeah, 40 years. Yeah.
40 years. So we will be planning a big 40th reunion. 40th anniversary kind of event, TBD. But, what's next is continuing to do more of the same. And I don't mean that in any way other than positive. But we've grown from a one program, Leadership Brevard, and then our Leadership Brevard alumni. So there are membership and engagement opportunities for our graduates and for community members. We have a series of events that is before work, LEAD Before Hours. I mean, kind of original names, right?
Right.
But those are professional development series, and we have an event series called LEAD on the Move. So those are the behind-the-scenes kind of exclusive on-site opportunities that are available primarily to Leadership Brevard alumni and members because they tend to be number restricted. I mean, how many people can be at a particular event? We're going to Citus Space with Carol Craig the end of August.
Nice.
For example, I mean, that's that kind of a exclusive opportunity.
Right.
That you can't just walk up to the door and go, hey,
yeah, can I
come in and have a tour?
Yeah.
So there's that. We have a Leadership Essentials program that is half-day sessions for a series of 6 sessions, and it's 100% focused on leadership skills development.
Okay.
So very different from the community outward-facing community information that is Leadership Brevard.
Yeah, so for somebody who's listening that says, well, I'm not necessarily a leader.
I would argue that, but okay.
Yeah, well, let's
go with
break
the conversation.
Let's break the first one. If you would argue, if I'm saying I'm PJ and I'm not much of a leader, what would you say to that?
I would say that is just something that you haven't learned about yourself yet because those leadership skills are inherent. They might need polished. They might need identified. They might need surround you with some self-confidence. Surround you with a network of other leaders to learn from. But I honestly believe that all individuals in our community are capable and are leaders at whatever level because it starts at your neighborhood, it starts at home, it starts in your faith community, it's at work, building.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I think people naturally just say, well, I'm not the CEO, or I don't want to be the president of anything, right? Like I'm actually really comfortable being in this middle row, and I don't know how to lead. I don't know. Nobody's ever put the framework around it to get me to start thinking, oh, I can lead in all of those areas of my life that you just mentioned.
Right. Well, and if you're that person, then I would invite you, now we're just talking hypothetically, I would invite you to consider joining us in the Leadership Brevard class, because then, again, that's a place where you can test in a safe environment, test your leadership skills in the big group, watch other leaders, test your leadership skills in a small group on the Community Acceleration Project team. Lots of opportunities.
Yeah. So we kind of demystified.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not necessarily a leader. What do you think is the most important aspects as somebody goes through the class that maybe they start to pick up? Where do you see most people transition, maybe is a better way to ask that question. I come in, I'm a little timid, I'm a little shy, I'm not a leader, but my boss told me I have to take this class.
Yeah, my boss sees the potential in me.
Yeah.
And so he or she encouraged me to participate in Leadership Brevard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One of the opportunities is for people to become considered for, or to consider joining a nonprofit board of directors. I'm pretty sure that's happened for you.
Oh yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Okay.
Well, I took everything I learned in LEAD and said, well, that's great. You want me to join a nonprofit board, and yet my job really is to figure out who the 10 people I'm going to bring with me, because the power of 11 is much greater than 1.
Right.
So yeah, I'm going to lead in my community to bring people with me, because I just know that,
that's
10x is always better than 1x.
That's
always.
how we get things done.
Yeah.
Right. It's literally the power of community.
Yeah.
I think I've lost
I was
the
asking
question.
you, where do you see like the biggest transition for somebody, or where somebody comes out of their shell a little bit, or you have the privilege of seeing multiple classes. For most of us, we just know everybody in our class. So I kind of saw the transition through a lot of people, but I'd love to hear from you. Like, you've been through a lot of them.
Yeah.
Is it the first session? Is it the fourth session? Or it really takes all 8 to see somebody transition?
I think it depends on the person, not trying to evade your question, but I've seen it happen in the first session. I've had a person who was self-described as an introvert stand up, raise his hand, say, I'm terrified to be here. I'm an introvert and I need all of your help to help get me through this and increase my comfort level. And about a third of the room started to applaud and said, I'm an introvert too.
Yeah. Yes. Somebody
band
else.
together. So it can happen in that very first session when you meet each other and those barriers are broken down immediately. It can happen during kind of midway, where somebody who might come into the program, let's say they're a little skeptical. Maybe they've been here a long time and have a sense that they're pretty well
connected
and
doing the right thing and helping the community.
all the things, but they're willing to see if there's something else, and there'll be something somewhere in the program where literally you can see the light bulb go off, and they're like, I had no idea that fill in the blank.
Yeah.
That this problem existed, that this challenge existed, that these people needed help, that person could do X. So there's that person midway.
Yeah. And
then there are people toward the end for whom it does take all 8 or 9 sessions for them to just kind of look around, assimilate, make sure that, gather all the information and really land on a place where they feel they can make a difference moving out of the program.
So if I'm watching this and I'm like, I'm still terrified to join a leadership class, what would you say? Because I know they're out there.
Well, yeah.
There's no way I can, first of all, there's no way I can take a Thursday off for 9 sessions.
Yeah, there is. There is, because you said it earlier, they're CEOs. How do they do that? Well, what you do is calendar management. We have all the dates now that get you through the spring of 25. So you book the dates, you go to the end, you go to April and work backwards.
Right.
And you just build those days into your calendar like any other thing that you prioritize. It could be family, it could be a work commitment, it could be some educational commitment. If you build it into your calendar and you prioritize it, you will make the time.
And there's breaks and lunch, and it
Well,
doesn't
sure,
go all
it's not
day.
like
all
all day, nose to
if
the
there's
grindstone.
an emergency, you can step out and take a phone call.
We allow
emergencies.
for the work environment. The majority of our participants are working
Except
professionals.
for maybe one session where it's pretty intense that we're not going to talk about.
We're not going to talk about, because it's like Fight Club, right?
Right.
And what's the first rule of Fight Club?
You don't talk about it.
You don't talk about Fight Club. Yeah. Of course,
Oh,
we're talking about SimSoc, but we'll leave it right there.
The stories that I can tell about that, it was one of the greatest days I've had, because, and I'm not allowed to talk about it. So you just have
exactly.
to.
So you just have to come and participate in Leadership Brevard.
Alumni is allowed to talk about it amongst
with other alumni.
Only alumni in the room.
Yeah,
yes.
correct.
Yeah.
So if you're considering community leadership, or you want to expand your network and build relationships, because the whole service after you graduate, it's not a requirement. It's just something that we hope we will do a job of inspiring you to step into those leadership roles. But we don't, we can't force people to be leaders, but we do work hard to inspire you to add to your leadership toolbox and to step out into the community in those leadership roles. But you come and join us. I mean, we're recruiting right now for the class that begins in September, and we'd love to talk to anyone who might be considering it. You can call our office and speak to any one of our 3 team members, myself included.
Yep. Small but mighty.
Yeah, small but mighty. And what do they say when you're punching above your weight, going along with the fight theme?
Right. Yeah, so to kind of summarize what I think I heard you say is that if you're somebody that wants to be involved in your community, wants to build community, wants a safe place where you can learn leadership skills instead of doing it in front of your peers or your boss or something like that, this is a great organization. Not to mention how you get involved in all aspects of the community, right? You guys really do a good job of showing all of the opportunity and, I would say, challenges. That we face inside of our community of 70 miles of coast. There are differences that happen in north and central and south parts of the county that really need the help. So if you're looking to grow as a leader, this is a great organization to start with, I think, right? I believe you guys start a lot of people on this path of, how do I build Brevard? How do I make this place better for the next generation? Is really what I'm hearing you say.
Well, and I think you've encapsulated that very well, PJ. Thank you. And alumni like you are really our best testimonials in advertising. We don't have a big marketing budget. I mean,
Right.
But when a person who's considering the program is in a position to talk to one of you who's had the experience, 9.9 times out of 10, that's a pretty positive conversation. And I appreciate you saying, what you just said. Thank you.
Of course. Another thing that you guys are involved in is 4 Under 40.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that. When did 4 Under 40 start? I would actually love to know some of the history.
Gosh, well, the 4 Under 40 program we celebrated our 20th anniversary with that event last year. Well, technically this year in 2024, calendar 24.
Mm-hmm.
So 20 years ago, we as an organization really sort of looked around and saw that there were a number of legacy award programs that were recognizing leaders who had been in a leadership role for some period of time.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't see is a program that was recognizing the contributions people under the age of 40 were making. So hence the 4 under 40.
So you saw a problem or an opportunity.
We saw an opportunity.
An
I
opportunity
think. Yeah.
to give some kudos.
Yeah, to lift up that sector, that segment of the community that's under the age of 40. So we've now been doing that for 20 years. Nominations will be open very soon, next month, August. And anybody can nominate anybody in Brevard County who's under the age of 40, January 1, 2025.
Right.
So, that means somebody at work, somebody in your neighborhood, somebody in your faith community, somebody that you know through one of your 3 Leadership Brevard connections is doing a great job at something, or with somebody, or leading, but maybe hasn't risen to that very public sphere yet.
Yeah.
So those are the people that we want you, our community, to nominate. And then there is a 3-part selection process. And I emphasize 3 because it's not an easy decision. The nominations come in and you read the nominee questionnaire and the history of what the person is doing, what they're engaged in, the differences that they're making. And it's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
But then there are 12 finalists that are named. And from that pool of 12, 4 are named the 4 under 40 recipients at the actual event, which this year will be Friday, February 7th, 2025.
Yeah. And you don't have to be a LEAD Brevard graduate.
You do not.
Right. I think that's a big
misconception.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. No, we want to recognize anybody in the community that is under 40 that is making a difference. And no, you do not have to be a Leadership Brevard graduate or currently enrolled or anything else, really.
You just have to be doing good in the community.
You have to be doing good and have somebody be able to recognize that and nominate you.
And then you got to do a good job through the 3-step process.
Yes, you do.
It's not just like, oh yeah, I'm going to go do some great things and they're going to select me, and yeah.
No, it's honestly, it's very competitive.
It is.
It's very competitive because there are just some amazing people that are nominated every year.
I was talking to a past alumni a week ago, and we were talking about interviews in which we bombed, and I was like, 4 under 40, hands down. I was on a red eye the night before.
Oh my gosh!
Somebody asked me like, where do you see Brevard County in 20 years? And I was like, just blank. It's by far one of the highlights of the most bombed interview I've ever done.
Gosh.
Also part of that awards though is the Rodney Ketchum Award, correct as well?
Correct. We started that award I think 4 or 5 years after we got the 4 under 40 going, but we do recognize a legacy leader every year who typically is over 40. At the same event, recognize them with the Rodney S. Ketchum Leadership Icon Award. And last year that was Dolores Spearman, whom many of your listeners may know as a community leader. All of the previous recipients of both the 4 under 40 and the Ketchum Award are on our website under the Leadership Awards tab. So you can go back and look at the history of the people that have been the recipients, and we will in August be able to announce the name of the 2025 Ketchum Leadership Icon Award recipient, because that is public from the beginning, because we want to use that as part of the attraction to the event and to help that individual celebrate, because the 4 under 40, while the top 12 are known once they're named, the final 4 under 40 are named the evening of the event.
Yeah. And complete side note, but I have to ask, has anybody ever won that award under 40?
The Ketchum Award under the age of 40. Well, I don't want to put someone on the spot, but there is a person or two that is probably not very far away from 40 that are Ketchum recipients.
Yeah. Just a
At the
complete side
time.
note.
Yeah, no, it is. Now I have to go and look. I don't know that we
That would be impressive.
ask them.
Yeah.
Now, we do ask for the birth date for the under 40s, of course, so that we can confirm.
Yeah.
But I don't think we ask the Ketchum recipients.
Instantly, I just started thinking
Yeah,
of
I don't know. Now I'm going to have to
travel
go
sports.
back
Show
and
me
look.
your birth certificate. I don't believe
We
you're
need
under
2
40.
forms of ID to make sure. Just kidding.
What do you see next for Brevard County? Like, you are directly in conversation, in training, and all of this with arguably some of the top leaders inside of Brevard County. What's something you can, maybe instead of asking what's next for Brevard, what's something you can share after all of this time with leaders inside of our community? Is there anything that comes to mind that the general public maybe doesn't know or doesn't necessarily think of? Like, you Building Brevard podcast.
Building Brevard podcast.
Here we are. You talk to some of the most important builders in our community. What do you see as a common thread? Maybe that's a better question.
That's probably an easier question because there are so many people engaged every day in building a better Brevard. I mean, I wouldn't know where to start the list, you know.
What do you see as common traits or common objectives?
I think a willingness to work together inspires me and impresses me in this community. While there are industrial silos, if you will, or spheres of influence, that's a more positive way to talk about silos.
Yep.
I really think that those sphere walls are very easily penetrated. There are not very many people where somebody can't pick up the phone or email and say, I've noticed this challenge, or I understand that there is a challenge. How can we help? How can I help? How can I get my company to help? And it's simply by those kinds of communication. I've lived here now for a number of years, and so I don't know that I can easily speak to how it is in other communities anymore.
Yeah, I need to remember that.
Because I'm now so influenced by the community that is Brevard. But anytime I've seen a need, there is someone to answer that call. I mean, have we solved all of the community problems? Of course not. Of course not. There are many community issues that I think we all still need to pay attention to, everything from continuing to build our economy, to people who are unhoused or people who need help on the social services spectrum. But there are also a lot of very solid nonprofits, working in that space.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how I would best answer that question, PJ. I think just the ability for this community to rally round each other and itself as an entity. I mean, it's somewhat of a small town stretched over 72 miles.
Yeah. Willingness to help is what I heard, if I was to summarize that into 3 words.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
How has LEAD Brevard changed in the 30 plus years? What would you say has changed, other than a very small class to now a very big class?
Yeah.
I was one of the last single class. It's not single. I don't know.
Well, there's still, we've only had 1 year where we experimented with 2 cohorts.
Okay.
And that's just proved to be challenging on a number of fronts. So for this class that we're recruiting, we're going back to 1 cohort.
Okay.
Beginning September right the way through. And that's been the model and probably will continue to be the model going forward. But I think how we've changed is, I'll answer that 2 ways. One is we've adapted and changed the curriculum almost annually, but certainly significantly this year, so that we're reflecting the needs of the community and showcasing themes, companies, people, ideas. How can you help into the curriculum for the Leadership Brevard program? The other thing that, in a more global sense, is we've just grown programmatically and through our membership from, basically one program, Leadership Brevard, and alumni, to Leadership Brevard, Leadership Essentials, Brevard Insight, Impact Brevard. I'm going to forget something. All of the engagement activities, we've got 6 alumni engagement activities coming up. We've expanded our membership program, and we've created a recognition society for persons who are inclined as philanthropists to the Starfish Galaxy, a group of somewhat like our compass, if you think about the starfish. But a group of starfish is called a galaxy.
Okay.
Like, who knew? Like a gaggle of geese,
Right.
a galaxy of starfish. So the Starfish Galaxy affords people who have the means and the interest to make donations, contributions, in their philanthropic model to LEAD Brevard. And so that's another opportunity, because we also afford scholarships to deserving individuals for our Leadership Brevard program and others. And some of those Starfish Galaxy funds support new initiatives as they arise.
Okay. That's a good point for me to ask. Who supported you? Like, this is a great shameless plug. Who are the companies or individuals, or what comes to mind of those who have given Leadership Brevard just great support over the decades that it's been around? Anybody come to mind? I know the list is so long and you don't want to forget anybody, but
that's what I'm frightened of, in terms of,
you didn't mention us.
You didn't say that we've been a partner with LEAD Brevard for,
All right, we'll
20
pivot off
years,
of that question.
But there are a lot.
Yeah.
There are a lot. And all you have to do is look on our website
There you go.
to see some of those companies and individuals. And there are a lot of names you'll recognize and some that you need to meet.
Right. Some that just silently support a lot of things that happen in Brevard County and we don't necessarily know about them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everybody wants or needs their name in lights, so to speak.
Right.
But everyone deserves to be thanked, and we certainly try to do that when people are generous with their time, talent, and treasure.
Yeah. I have only been here for, call it a decade. What I see, and I appreciate that you brought this up, what I need to do is say, well, I know what happens inside of Brevard County. I don't necessarily know what happens outside because I'm so invested in what happens here and not in the surrounding counties or states or anything like that. But what do you see next for Brevard County? How does organizations like yours or other organizations, what do you see as next? I love the question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the things that is both a risk and an opportunity, I think as more people, it's 900,000 people a day move to Florida. I mean, you would know this in the real estate business, right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people moving to Florida. I don't know so much about the out migration, but what I do see is that influx of new people who are choosing to come to Florida for a variety of reasons. So that brings a lot of opportunity. But it also brings a risk, I think, as we build community, because if those people aren't engaged and invested early on, much like circling back to the decisions that you and Stephanie made early, we might not have benefited as a community from.
Yeah, we could have easily migrated in and migrated right back out.
Yeah.
That was, in all truth, that was our plan. Like,
yeah, stop in, do 2 or 3 years here, and then
we're going to see
move on, right?
Yeah, see what this community has to offer, and we were pleasantly surprised. So, yeah, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
How do we get more people who are new involved? I think that's a great
Yeah.
opportunity.
So I think, again, it's an opportunity and a risk at the same time, because without that, I would not like to see Brevard become a community of isolation,
Right.
where I'm only going to stay in my 5-mile radius sphere,
Yeah.
work, home, school,
Yeah.
church, whatever.
Oh, we see that all the time in real estate. Like, if it doesn't exist beachside, it doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist in Vieira, it doesn't exist. I'm like, you got to get outside your bubble a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
those are causeways. They're
causeways.
roads.
Exactly. Bridges connect two places, right? They
Right.
don't isolate community A from community B. But I know I hear it sometimes. Oh, that's on the other side of the bridge. Well, gosh, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Get in the car.
There's no traffic.
Get in the car. Come on, join us.
So, somebody who's watching who hasn't been an alumni, not sure exactly what to do, how can they help support you or support your organization?
Yeah. Well, again, one of the easiest ways to explore the opportunities is to call me directly. I mean, we're still a small shop. I'm a very accessible CEO. I mean, I have the title and not the ivory tower, right?
Right.
So I'm happy to speak to anybody, about anything LEAD Brevard, as is any member of our team. So you can call us, you can email. Our website is brand new within the last 2 or 3 months, and we're so excited about that. So if you visit leadbrevard.org, that will get you to the website, and that has all the contact information, all the programmatic information, and some ideas about how you can get involved.
Fantastic. Wow. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys checking in. Looking forward to seeing you next on Building Brevard.